Trevor Ault right there live from Jackson in the front of the line where they're trying to get water to the people. Set the scene for us, Trevor.
Sure. So, Kyra, where we are is where they are just about to start handing cases of water out. We're moments away from that right now. They're planning on doing it at 2 Central Time, which should be right about here. You can see they brought in. They've worked quickly to try to bring in as much water as they can. There's about 600 cases total. They're going to have to limit it to 1 case per vehicle, which is not a lot given the fact that a lot of these people have no water at home. But when you look at the demand, I mean, look in the distance here. So this line, has been gathering for 2 hours now. It wraps around the streets easily. I would say this is easily a mile long, and it's going to continue. And so if they're giving out 1 case per vehicle, there is a real chance that there's not going to be enough cases for the people who need this water, Kyra. And I've been talking to all these people down the line, one after another. You know, they're hot. They say they can't flush the toilet or bathe at home, and they're extremely frustrated about the circumstances because this is not the first time they've had to line up for water. I know earlier this afternoon you asked me to try to talk to one. I tried to speak with a woman named Kyra. She wouldn't go live earlier for ABC News Live, but she did let us do a brief interview with her. So let's play that now. Can you shower?
Mm-mm.
Can you flush the toilet?
Mm-mm.
What can you do?
Ain't nothing we can do.
Has this happened before?
Yeah, it happened one time before. Yeah, when that ice storm come through, it was a mess.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was worse than this one.
Can you keep living like this?
No.
What do you want them to do?
Fix it. Fix everything. There's water, fix the streets, everything. They need to fix it.
And that is essentially the attitude of everybody who's in line, and we're actually starting to see the first vehicles pull up here for the distribution site. This woman here that I spoke to, she showed up here 2.5 hours early. She said she'd been through this before. She knows what this process is like, and she was not about to get caught with them running out of supplies here for her. But she was also hot and frustrated, and while she believes in Jackson, she made a point to say that I shouldn't come on here to make Jackson look bad. The people here really believe in their city, but man, they acknowledge that there are some serious systemic problems, particularly with the infrastructure, and they're trying to get some answers, Kyra.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just about to interview one of Jackson's council members. So what should I ask him, Trevor? As we're watching these live pictures, these families finally getting water. We heard from Kyra. She said they just need to fix it. I can't live like this. What kind of answers do these residents want? I'll take a chance at getting those in just a second here.
Well, I think they want some specifics here, Kyra. I mean, this is something that just cannot continue to go on and on and on, and yet here all of these residents find themselves one after another. Everybody who is in the government here in Jackson says, yeah, we need to fix the problem. This can't keep happening, but they are short on answers, especially when fixing something as complicated and as widespread as the water system is going to cost tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And so what is it going to take here? I mean, we're hearing specifically from, you know, we've got the mayor, we've got even the governor starting to step up. We've got the state saying that they're doing emergency maintenance here too, but how much is it going to take? We heard earlier from the EPA, you know, they say they're at the ready. They're ready to provide some guidance or some help however they can if they decide to ask for any federal intervention. I would just ask the leaders here, you know, what are these specifics that it can be done, not to just fix it right now to where people have water that goes into their homes, but make it so that this cannot keep happening in the future, because all of these people say they cannot keep doing this over and over again.
So we're getting Jackson City Council member Aaron Banks wired up right now. If you don't mind, Trevor, just staying with me for a second here. As you're watching these folks pull up and get water, are you seeing a lot of families? Are you seeing kids? Do you know anything about the school situation? Right? These are kids that just had to deal with COVID and couldn't go in the classroom. How do you go to school without drinking water, being able to flush the toilet?
Yeah, well, they don't, Kyra. Jackson Public Schools has been entirely virtual, and they already had some significant problems with the bathrooms. With, you'd imagine, you know, they already couldn't use the drinking fountains because they've been under a boil water advisory here for a month now, and that continues to happen on and off. It has through the entirety of the pandemic, too. What I'm seeing here in line is a lot of multi-generational families, you know, people who are there with their grandparents, people who live with their grandchildren. Kyra lives with her 2 grandchildren, people who say they have kids at home, and they're trying to make do. They get one of these. Imagine how far you can stretch one of these. Is it beneficial? Absolutely. Is it necessary? 100%. But how long is it going to last? That is basically what they're dealing with. They're frustrated by the fact that this is what they're going to have to live off of. They certainly are grateful for what they get, and all the people who are working to get it to them are working really hard. It took a gigantic effort to just get 600 cases of water here to this distribution site in less than 24 hours here. But ultimately, in fact, here's Cora in line, ready to get her bottles of water here too. So I know that Cora expressed some frustration here to only get one case of it. The woman there in the front seat there, she said over and over, she said, tell the governor to get on this and get this fixed because they just can't keep doing this again. I mean, you see this with everybody pulling up, Cora. These are entire families here who are really suffering and who have been suffering now going on 2 years, but this is definitely the worst that it's been.
All right, well, I'm going to take what Cora wants to know. We just heard from the car there where she got her water. She's about to pull off. We've got the council member fired up now. We're going to do an interview. Trevor Ault, thank you so much, because before this water crisis, you know, Jackson was having issues there because their plants were old and aging. Matter of fact, according to Jackson City Council member Aaron Banks, who we're now going to talk to, they were just in the process of replacing equipment in order to be compliant with the EPA when the flooding came. Councilmember Banks joining me now. Councilman, thanks for being with me.
Look, thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, so I know you were just getting fired up and getting ready for this interview, and we were getting that live shot all connected. I don't know what you were able to see, but our Trevor Ault was right there at the beginning of that 2 o'clock, the fire department coming together and starting to hand out water to families that need clean drinking water. We talked to one woman, Cora Williams there, her family. She's frustrated. She wants answers. So I'm asking for Cora. I'm asking for these folks that are lined up, you know, down the street, around the block, down the highway, council member. What is being done right now to fix that plant so they can get toilets flushing again and be able to drink their water?
Look, right now, one of the things that we have going on that is very problematic is the flood water. And that flood water that is going into the membranes and going into our plants here in Jackson, J.H. Field, O.B. Curtis, is making it very hard to detoxify or to put the proper chemicals in to make sure we get the proper pH balance. And so with that going on, it slows down the amount of water that is going to our surface water customers, which are mostly in my ward in South Jackson. And so one of the things that's going on right now is it's an all-hands-on-deck approach. We're waiting to hear from the governor of the state of Mississippi and what they can do. I understand that he's called an emergency session so that our legislators and our Jackson delegation can get together to see what resources we need. So, you know, right now, what's more important to me is the right now, making sure that people have non-potable water and potable water, especially to be able to flush their toilets, to be able to wash those dishes and be able to cook, and to make sure that we're able to provide on an emergency basis the resources that are necessary.
Aaron, if you don't mind, stay with me because I'm told the mayor is speaking now. I would love for you to listen to what the mayor's saying, and let's keep our conversation going. Here we go.
Foremost, the city of Jackson has not distributed any untreated raw water. That is inaccurate. But we do encourage our residents to continue to abide by the boil water notice that has been in effect. I thank the leadership from the state for reiterating this boil water notice that has been in effect for several days. I also want to clarify and make clear, because this was a rumor that got out, that the city of Jackson has not cut off water to any resident. We never cut off water. The lack of water was due to pressure, a lack of pressure in the system, which we stated was complicated by the flood waters that we received. It is because of our transparency that the state is aware of the many challenges that our system is facing. It is because of our transparency that we know about the staffing shortages. It is because of our transparency that they know about the system issues. And it is because of our transparency they know about the numerous equipment failures that we have. This is a set of accumulated problems based on deferred maintenance that has not taken place over decades. So let's talk about what we do next. Let's look forward to the united front that we have now announced and we look forward to. We're grateful to add the state to our team for the betterment of our city, Jackson, and our water system. With the state advising us and assisting us, we look forward to the myriad of improvements that are sure to come. I want to thank all of the volunteers. I want to thank all of the city employees that have been tuned into this challenge daily. I want to thank the support of Hinds County and their leadership that have been instrumental in supporting the city of Jackson over the years, distributing water year after year and crisis after crisis. And so I think it is imperative that we all keep our eye on the ball. We were here 2 Februaries ago where we had system-wide failures and the world was watching us. And the world is watching us again. And so we must continue to elevate our voices and say that the residents of Jackson are worthy. They are worthy of a dependable system. And we look forward to a coalition of the willing that will join us in the fight to improve this system that has been failing for decades. With that, I will open the floor for any questions that you have. I will go from right to left. Starting back here. Yes.
Mayor, I spoke to the EPA last Friday, and Carol Kemper told me that there have been some critical failures to address personnel needs at water treatment plants. I'm quoting here directly.
We asked them an information request letter for their communications regarding staffing. In both documentation and
Communications, we did not see evidence of any efforts to recruit. So I don't know that they've tried to reach into that labor pool, meaning for Class A water operators and regular maintenance personnel. She continues. They could be reaching out to technical colleges. They could be holding recruitment events. They could be scheduling interviews. They could be putting in advertisements. This is what we do when we recruit. We're not seeing these types of things.
Well, I don't know how abreast of all of the recruitment efforts Ms. Kemper is at this time. I can tell you right now that we have 10 individuals that are training to be Class A operators right now as we speak. As you know, for a degreed person, it takes 2 years for them to be able to be certified as a Class A operator. And for a non-degreed individual, it takes as much as 6 years. Our Human Resource Division has gone as far as reaching out to other counties and traveling to work in this regard. We have made an agreement with the Army Reserves in order to bring in people. We have started working with the U.S. Water Alliance, and we have taken the instruction of the EPA. It was the EPA who encouraged us to become a part of the Rural Water Association. It was the EPA that encouraged us to become a part of the Mutual Aid Agreement. And on the heels of receiving 4 to 5 individuals to help in the immediate response, we got, on the eve of that happening, a response that they were unable to fulfill that because they had their own critical staffing challenges. And so the effort is ongoing. The effort, we have seen people come and be trained and leave in the midst of the process. And so we will continue to double down and encourage that, as well as augment our staff. And I'll tell you some other things that we're doing. Augment our staff with retired employees. We're looking to bring in retired employees that can work a maximum of 20 hours for the time frame prescribed without violating their retirement protocol or endangering their retirement. In addition to that, we're looking to do privatization, not privatization, let me say, a operations and maintenance agreement with a third-party firm that can help augment all of that, and that's what we're contending to do. I'll come back.
Mayor, yesterday the governor said that there's going to be plans to try to find a way to split costs between the city and state to try to fund these programs to get back up the code and get water flowing back in Jackson. Can you speak to that? What's that going to look like here in the city?
Give me a moment. Forgive me. We have a number of microphones sitting up here. Testing.
All right, we're watching a live news conference here in Jackson, Mississippi. You're looking at the mayor here, Mayor Chokwe Lumumba. It looks like there was a little bit of a mic issue. Can we now hear the mayor, guys? Okay, let's go ahead and listen in. Reporters are asking questions about the water crisis.
To date, I can just share with you the conversation that I had with the leadership from the health department and also from the leadership of MEMA. Where they talked about taking on about 50% of that cost. We will be using ARPA funds and any available dollars that we have in order to meet our portion of that cost. I can share with you that I've had representation from the White House, and also I received a call from the infrastructure czar, Mitch Landrieu, that have shared with me that the White House is watching critically in terms of what is taking place here. And so we look forward to additional support from them. But we will take every available dollar. And I think that that's something I failed to speak to here. That the city of Jackson, in the process of this crisis, we have committed every dollar that we could find in order to meet this challenge. Not only have we committed $8 million for one water line, a 48-inch water line that helps support the service of water to South Jackson, which is most disproportionately affected by this challenge. We've put in millions of dollars in terms of weatherization of our water treatment facility due to what we've experienced in February, where the cold temperatures, the prolonged cold temperatures, crippled our water treatment facility there. We're spending money towards automating certain parts of the plant. We're trying to deal with the clear or the wells, the clear track wells at the fuel plant. And we're looking to make as many improvements as we can. But as I have stated before, this gets into quite possibly the billions of dollars. And so that is far beyond the city of Jackson's reach to be able to accomplish that on our own. Yes,
so
sir.
You say this is an ongoing problem. We spent the day in South Jackson talking to customers. They said the same thing. So what's the big piece that's missing? Is it a lack of funds, attention, coordination with the state? Do we need a new plant here? What's the big piece that's been missing in order for you to be able to solve this problem of frustrated residents?
Certainly, if we could get a new plan on the table, I would defer to a new plan. But by and large, it is a lack of resources and the coordination. And that is why we're excited to have the coordination today. This is what we've been asking for. And so we have open arms in this process to welcome that coordination, welcome that support. There are areas of challenge that we have had with our raw water screens. And today I'm hearing discussions about bringing in temporary raw water pumps. I'm hearing discussions about bringing temporary raw water pumps into the fold to help support the input of water into the plant so that we can treat it appropriately and get it out. Often, our lack of being able to have requisite pressure going into the system is due to the fact that we don't have the appropriate amount of water coming into the system, or we're challenged due to those pumps, due to raw water screens, due to a number of system failures that cripple us and are unable to achieve. I believe that it certainly should be on the table when you have this number of repairs that need to be made, that, you might be better served starting over anew. And so if that is something that we can accomplish, we would certainly welcome that. But in the alternative, we have to work with what we have.
You said billions. Ballpark, how much money does the city need to fix this problem?
If we're just talking about the water distribution, right, I don't think that it's a stretch to say $1 billion for our water distribution system.
Can you describe your communications with the health department recently and when you were made aware of the possibility that the governor alluded to last night, that you found out on Friday that there's a possibility that the Omicron might fail?
We spoke to the health department yesterday. I would estimate probably just a couple of hours before that press briefing. And I would describe that communication as encouraging. It was a good discussion. I appreciated that leadership and what they had to share. And they talked about bringing the full cavalry in order to support the hardworking people of our water treatment facility. These are individuals that are working long hours, that do know their craft, do know this water treatment facility. And I do want to make it clear that these are individuals that have more understanding and expertise than the average water operator, because Jackson has a unique system that is both conventional and membrane, and they use the combination of both of those processes in order to distribute water into the system. Usually what we experience in most water treatment facilities, surface water treatment facilities, is either conventional or membrane. And so to have them join in on those individuals, who have been working hard was welcome news.
So you didn't know before yesterday about this system?
Yesterday was the first time that I was briefed. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Last night, Governor Reed said that the 2 main pumps and motors at O.B. Curtis went out about a month ago. Is that an accurate timeline? And were repairs being made? Were there plans to make repairs?
Well, first and foremost, I want to communicate that there are more than 2 pumps at O.B. Curtis. And so the 2 pumps going out did not cripple us. But I actually communicated this to the local media, I think about 2 to 3 weeks ago, where I talked about the repairs that needed to be made, that I talked about, one, they felt that they could make the repairs within the local vicinity, and that we would return that into service. And so that's ongoing. We have challenges with these pumps on a consistent basis. Sometimes it may be a simple fix that could be made right there at the water treatment facility. Sometimes it requires us to ship off this pump or that pump in order to make those repairs. And so that has been a part and parcel of the ongoing challenges that we have been dealing with consistently. That is why I've been lifting up the fact that we are in a constant state of emergency, because whether it's the raw water screens, whether it's the pump, whether it's the UV light, that isn't even a part of the order of consent with the EPA, we have acknowledged and we have identified additional challenges that are yet to be that have yet to rear their head in a way that have brought the attention to the regulatory agencies. And so there are a number of failures. I will share with you that what is ideal. What is ideal is a system or a city that would have had a capital improvement plan over time, that would have looked at the life cycle of each piece of equipment in that plant and determined when that life cycle was set to end and scheduled its replacement over time. And so quite simply, that didn't happen. And as it relates to the human capital, it would have been ideal if we had a workforce development program that as our seasoned water operators were coming to an age of retirement, we were training people for the 2 or 6 year period that was necessary in order to replace them. But I liken it to a car. If you change your oil, if you rotate the tires, if you check the fluid levels, then that vehicle is more likely to function well for you. But the moment that you don't have that routine maintenance and things get out of hand, then you have big system failures that cost you big. Yes, sir.
Mayor, we've seen some drone footage of the O.B. Curtis plant that doesn't show any visible flooding affecting it. Can you clarify how those high water levels did impact Curtis's ability to process and treat water?
Yeah. Well, I'm not certain when those drone images were actually taken. And so that may be, a bit misleading. But what happened is that due to the flood, they were receiving a different composition of water, right? A different makeup of water that made it more difficult to treat. And so if they didn't change the chemical composition of how they were treating it, then we would have left our residents in greater danger and a greater threat. And so that's why they were unable to push out more water, because they were making certain that they were effectively treating the water. And so that was directly associated with the additional water coming into the plant.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I had a follow-up about...
I'll start here with the follow-up, and then I'll return back this way.
You mentioned at the top of the press conference about there was no raw, untreated water introduced through pipes, unlike what the governor and I believe state health officer had mentioned last night. Can you clarify why, and again, I'm not trying to get into a tit for tat, I'm just wondering why there would have been even the possibility of that therein saying something like that. That's a pretty big stretch from your water is safe to drink if you boil it versus this is untreated water.
Yeah. Well, I think that the main thing we want to emphasize to residents is to heed the warnings to boil the water. But I would just simply say that, as a non-engineer myself, I simply listen to the reports that I get from those who are the experts in the field, right? And so there may be some miscommunication as to what the exact challenge was, what was issued, into the system, what was put into the system, and what was the registered threat. We know that the threat was the potential of raw water getting into the system, but it was recognized by those that treat the water, and they ceased putting out the water until they could come to a chemical composition that was actually healthy and could be sent out to the residents. But we are still under a boil water notice. If the boil water notice had been lifted prior to the events of this week, we would have reissued one due to the challenges that we have experienced in water pressure.
So it's your position that no untreated water has gone out to residents through the system?
That is what has been shared with me by our water operators. Okay. Yes.
So I just want to go back to the question of staffing and reaching out to staffing. Again, I'm quoting directly from the interview here. Contracting was the other thing we were looking for. We saw no information or correspondence. They were seeking a contract to staff O.B. Curtis. The mayor asked if that was an option, and I said, yes, it is. We do not dictate how you staff. How is it that the Environmental Protection Agency has no records in all the partnership with the city of attempts to contract or seek new employees through interviews, job fairs, technical training? How is there no record?
I think that is because the EPA only sees completed transactions, right? And so they don't have a record of us meeting with companies like Veolia here in my office. They don't see the document trail of that,
but
right?
They requested those documents. They said they sent you an information request letter to find all information on the efforts to staff O.B. Curtis, and they did not.
Well, that would have been simply a calendar identification of the meetings that I was having. Until we reach those agreements, there's nothing to provide them. We've been waiting on a proposal from certain companies that we have not received, right? I don't want to go into great detail about that because that gets into some of the state's work at this point with those companies that we've been talking about.
How long, if you could tell me at least?
We've been working to look at bringing in a third-party company over a 6-month period or better. Yeah.
Is there another company that maybe would take less time? I mean, that's like a long...
So it's a matter of what they feel is in their best interest as a company. They want to talk about profitability. They want to talk about, how it is orchestrated, whether they're working at just O.B. Curtis or whether they're doing fuel, which actually does pretty well under its current operation. They want to talk about whether it's a revenue split or those things. These are things that are negotiated in the process, and that process has not been completed. But we are in active and ongoing discussions with multiple agencies and multiple firms that are looking to apprise us of that. I have spoken directly with Carol, not only about companies that we have spoken to, but also to the extent that they can advise us of who they've had good relationships with in the EPA and who they've had negative experiences with. And that was important because we want to make certain that regardless of who deals with the operations and maintenance of our water treatment facility, they are qualified and they have a good track record. Yes.
In terms of the governor's characterization of the severity of what's happening right now, he said there might not be the ability to fight fires, people might not be able to flush toilets, or just in general how he characterized the severity of where we are right now. How accurate is it?
I would share that we've been in constant discussion with our leadership of our fire department, and they have kept us abreast of what their capacity is. They have yet to indicate that they're unable. But however, we've talked from the standpoint of MEMA assisting with those efforts and making sure they double down with the ability to supplement what our fire department has. And so we feel comfortable with our fire department's reserves, along with the support of MEMA, that if we should meet the unfortunate circumstance of a fire, they will be able to contend with it. Yes.
What sparked the change in leadership at the Public Works Department?
Well, we thought that a realignment was better in order to best address the challenges that we have here. And so no one was let go. There was a reassignment based on individual strengths, right? And so we believe that the interim leadership we have now has the requisite talent and ability to help move us past where we are at this present moment.
Mayor, 2.5 weeks ago, you told us that you had full confidence in Mr. King and special confidence in the area you tasked him with, and clarified that for us. What changed in that 2.5 weeks?
Nothing. I still have confidence in Mr. King and what I want him to do in the area that we believe that he can be most helpful is still one that he will be working on. Now, I felt that there needed to be a realignment of who people reported to, how communication followed down the chain. And so that's the change that happened. It was a realignment based on what we feel the individual skill sets of our team is. And so it doesn't mean that I no longer trust Mr. King. It doesn't mean that his skill set as a systems individual is not one that is well needed and beneficial to the overall success of our Public Works Department. Yes.
If I may, just two really quick questions. We have the assessment of how many service lines customers are affected generally with that water. And then the second question is just in terms of messaging. There have been a lot of statements of just don't drink the water cleanly, but to clarify, if the water is boiled, it's still safe to drink.
We have not gotten an official word from the Department of Health to just say don't drink it, in a blanket way. Right now, the official stance right now is that we are under a boil water notice, and that is what we continue to advise our residents.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.